The morning sun spilled gold across the lawns of Cedar Grove, a tidy suburban pocket where everything seemed to hum with quiet order. Kids pedaled bikes down the street, their laughter bouncing off picket fences, and the faint buzz of a leaf blower droned in the distance. Jake Harper paused, leaning on his rake, his coffee mug warm in his hand. The air smelled of fresh-cut grass, crisp but softening as the day woke up. Behind the house, his wife, Emily, was in the garden shed, humming softly, arranging tools, and planting her spring flower beds. It was their routine, their rhythm, 6 months into calling this place home. They waved to neighbors, kept the yard neat, paid their dues. Life felt right almost. But there was a shadow in Cedar Grove, one that didn't quite fit the sunny calm. Victor Lane, the HOA compliance officer, wasn't loud or rude, but he didn't smile either. He moved through the neighborhood like a warden, not a neighbor, his khaki slacks and navy polo always paired with a clip badge and a notebook. He'd show up unannounced, scribbling violations for a shrub out of line or a trellis an inch too wide. At first, Jake and Emily shrugged it off. Annoying, sure, but just part of VYing in a place with rules. Over time, though, Victor's VY sits grew sharper, his notes more pointed. Once they caught him peering through their fence, snapping photos of their backyard. It left a sour taste, but they let it slide. Until that morning. Jake was dragging branches to the curb when he spotted Victor again, clipboard in hand, walking the edge of their property. The man moved with purpose, pretending not to see Jake, his pen poised like a weapon. Jake tensed, expecting another note taped to their door. But Victor didn't pass by. He stopped at their side gate, glanced around, and lifted the latch. No knock, no call, just the soft click of the gate as he slipped into the backyard, heading straight for the shed where Emily was working. Jake's got twisted. Maybe it was an emergency water main, a hazard. But it didn't feel like that. It felt wrong. He dropped the branches and started walking, then jogging, as the shed came into VYEW. The old wooden door was slightly ajar, but Victor was gone. Then he heard a dull thump, followed by silence. Then Emily's voice, faint at first, then sharp with panic. Jake! Jake! A pause. Jake, I need you. Open the door. His heart slammed against his ribs. He sprinted, the world narrowing to that shed. Jake, get me out. Emily's voice cracked, raw with fear. The door was shut tight, locked from the inside. He yanked the handle, but it didn't budge. Emily, he shouted, throwing his shoulder against the wood. Once, twice, 3 times. The frame splintered, the latch snapped, and the door burst open. Light flooded the cramped space shelves of potting soil, tools, and Emily, pressed against the back wall, her face flushed, hands clenched. She wasn't just scared. She looked trapped. Victor stood a few feet away, a sleek tablet glowing in his hand, his posture stiff, 1 foot half-turned like he was caught mid-step. For a moment, no one spoke. The air felt thick, the echo of Emily's scream hanging between them. Jake's voice cut through. What the hell are you doing in here? Victor blinked, startled. "Two was inspecting," he stammered. "Routine check. Nothing inappropriate." Emily's voice was low, sharp. He came in without a word. "I was sorting shelves, then the door shut. Locked. I told him to open it, and he just stood there." Jake's blood roared in his ears. Emily's face-controlled panic, holding back a flood, told him everything. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was personal. He didn't shout again. He didn't need to. The silence said it all. The police arrived quietly, 2 cruisers rolling up without sirens. Emily sat on the back steps, a blanket around her shoulders, staring at nothing. Jake stayed close, his hand on her arm. She barely spoke, her silence louder than words. Victor, meanwhile, waited by the driveway, calm as ever, clipboard back in hand like he'd clocked back into his role. When the officers approached, he nodded politely. "A misunderstanding," he said smoothly. "I was checking for prohibited substances, fertilizers, chemicals. HOA charter allows it. The door must have locked accidentally. I didn't mean to alarm anyone." Jake's jaw clenched. The officers took notes, then turned to him. "Did you see him go in?" "No," Jake said, "but he walked through our gate without asking. He's done it before." We'll let it go, but this. He glanced at Emily. This is different. Emily's voice trembled as she tried to explain, but the weight of it choked her words. Jake stepped in. She told him to open the door. He didn't. I had to break it down. What kind of inspection locks someone in and ignores them? The officers scribbled, paused, then delivered the blow. We'll file a report, but there's not enough for charges right now. No injuries, no physical contact. If more comes up, follow up. Victor walked away, tablet under his arm, disappearing down the sidewalk like nothing had happened. Jake stood frozen, watching the man who'd crossed a line vanish untouched. But inside, something hardened. This wasn't over. Days later, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that Victor's actions weren't a one-off. They were too deliberate, too practiced. So he started asking questions quietly at first. Over the fence, his neighbor Tom hesitated before saying, "You two? I thought it was just me." Jake's stomach churned. That was the start. Stories trickled in. Mrs. Ellis, an elderly widow, said Victor once entered her garage while her granddaughter was there, claiming to check for illegal storage. Another neighbor, Sarah, said he'd walked into her backyard vy Ted, measuring her sunroom windows for reflective compliance. Each story echoed the same phrase. I thought it was just me. The pieces formed a dark picture, not just boldness, but entitlement. Victor acted like he owned the place, and no one had stopped him because no one had connected the dots. Until now. Then, by chance, their neighbor Raj stopped Jake by the mailbox. My camera might have caught something, he said. It covers part of your yard. Hope sparked. That afternoon, in Raj's garage, they scrolled through the footage. There was Victor pausing at their gate, looking around, then slipping inside. Emily entered the shed, and Victor followed, closing the door deliberately. No wind, no accident. Then, clear through the audio, Emily's scream. Jake's jaw tightened. This was it proof. He clipped the video, backed it up, and sent it to the police, the HOA board, and a local reporter known for digging into community issues. His note was blunt. This requires immediate re-VYEW. The truth was out, and it wouldn't be buried. By morning, Victor was gone. No rounds, no notes, no presents. Whispers spread suspended. On leave, no one knew. The HOA stayed silent. Jake waited one day, then acted. He printed flyers. Community meeting, Friday, 6 p.m., our backyard. Topic: HOA conduct. That evening, neighbors filled their yard, hesitant at first, then standing shoulder to shoulder. Jake played the video. For 3 minutes, the crowd was silent, watching Victor sneak in, hearing Emily scream. Gasps broke the quiet. Then voices. He looked through my windows last summer, one said. He demanded I unlock my garage, another added. He scared my wife, a third whispered. The dam broke. Stories poured out, each one feeding the next. A chorus of quiet wrongs finally spoken. Monday brought change. The HOA issued a statement. Victor was fired, an investigation launched, policies under re-VYEW. Residents submitted complaints, emails, voicemails, a paper trail no one could ignore. Jake and Emily hired a lawyer, joined by other families. It wasn't just about Victor anymore. It was about the system that protected him. Board meetings opened, attendance surged, and the neighborhood buzzed with focus, not fear. For Emily, healing was slower. The shed loomed large, a knot of anxiety she couldn't untie. She started therapy, not because she had to, but because she wanted to understand the fear that lingered. Some days, she avoided the backyard. Others, she stood just close enough to see the shed's hinges. Jake didn't push, just stayed near. Slowly, she planted again pots on the porch, then beds by the fence. She hummed again, not always, but enough. The neighborhood shifted too. People waved longer, talked more, asked real questions. Cameras went up, not from paranoia, but precaution. The HOA elected new leaders, rewrote rules in plain language. Jake replaced the shed's lock, heavy duty, keyed both ways. One day, Emily stepped inside, just for a minute, just to know she could. They didn't say much. They didn't need to. Months later, they sat on their porch, coffee mugs in hand, the morning sun warm and still. The shed stood behind them, no longer a shadow but a marker of what they'd overcome. Victor faced charges, his name a cautionary tale. Their story had spread, inspiring others to speak up. Jake glanced at Emily, her eyes soft beyond the trees. The scream still echoed sometimes, but it didn't paralyze him. He remembered what came after Emily stepping back into the shed, neighbors standing together, the day they stopped feeling alone. They'd rebuilt what mattered, and they'd done it together. The quiet wasn't fear anymore. It was peace.